In 1966, an avalanche of coal waste in the village of Aberfan struck the Pantglass Junior School and a row of houses, killing 116 children and 28 adults. However, many people claim they had premonitions about the disaster. Ariel Mai, a girl killed in the accident, told her mom about the dream she had before the accident, about how her school was covered with something black. The next day, she was killed in the avalanche. Following the tragedy, many people asked if the tragedy could have been prevented, and John Barker was one of them. He heard about the story of Ariel Mai, who told her mother she wasn't afraid to die, so he was wondering if anyone could have foreseen the tragedy. He published an appeal in a newspaper to ask anyone that had any dreams about the tragedy. He received around 60 letters in response, and one of them was from Ariel Mai's parents. Barker was so impressed by the letters that he started the British Premonitions Bureau so people could record their premonitions, hoping the information collected would prevent the next major tragedy. The first major hit for the Bureau was when Alan Hencher predicted a plane crash over mountains, with 124 people on board. 30 days later, a Britannia aircraft crashed into a hill, breaking into pieces and catching fire, killing 124 people, although 2 more people died later. The Bureau received 469 predictions in its first year, but Alan Hencher and Lorna Middleton, seers of the Aberfan tragedy, were the ones that stood out the most, whose prediction would be accompanied by physical and mental symptoms. In the fall of 1967, they predicted a railway crash on a main line heading into London. Middleton made her prediction on November 1st. 4 days later, a train from Hastings was derailed, killing 49 people, and at the time of the crash, Hencher was taken to a sick bay with a headache. Middleton also has been worried about Robert Kennedy for months. She wrote to Barker numerous times talking about assassination. On June 4th, she got increasingly frantic, and she called the Bureau 3 times in the same day. Then shortly after midnight, Kennedy was killed. To Barker, that was Middleton's best prediction. Other popular premonition is of Abraham Lincoln, where he found himself walking around the White House in his dream. He then found a coffin heavily guarded by guards. He asked the guards who died, and then the guard said, "The president was killed by an assassin." A few days later, Abraham Lincoln was shot and killed. However, some researchers suggested that this isn't a prediction, since Lincoln had survived an assassination attempt last year, so the dream may have been an embodiment of his fear. There are some explanation to the precognitive dreams. Selective recall is one of them. When an event happened in your life that is similar to the one in your dream, you're more likely to remember the similarities than the differences. If you dreamed about riding a horse in the woods, seeing a sunset, eating a sandwich, and punching strangers, and then a few days later you end up eating sandwich, it would feel like your dream predicts you eating sandwich, since your brain focuses on the thing that happened correctly, even when other details don't fit. Other than that, it is common to dream about the things that worry you. Reports of precognitive dreams is higher during crisis. When bad things happen, you have a tendency to dream about it. Barker was aware that someone could be scared to death, especially when they're told they're cursed or would die at a certain age, something Walter Cannon called the Voodoo Death. Barker believed that he had treated 2 men whose fear had killed them. The influence of negative expectations on our health is known as the nocebo effect, contrary to the placebo effect. In 2006, a 26-year-old man attempted suicide by taking antidepressant without knowing they were inept. His blood pressure collapsed and he was taken to the hospital, but his symptoms subsided when he was told it was inept. When Hencher said that Barker's life was in danger, Barker admitted feeling a bit frightened by the prediction. Having recently written a book called Scared to Death, he said he probably was beginning to feel what that would be like. 18 months after the Premonition Bureau was born, Middleton and Hencher received signs that Barker was about to die. Unfortunately, on August 18, 1968, Barker suffered a brain hemorrhage. He was taken to a hospital where he died. He was 44. His son said there was a myth Barker worked himself to death. But on the day he died, Middleton was awake on her bed in the early hours, choking and gasping for breath.